Yes. Thank you. Welcome back to the Gary Common Council April 7th, 2020 meeting. We apologize for our brief recess to correct some of our technology. We're all learning and getting better in an effort to serve you better so that you can hear and see us properly. We had already done our council pending ordinances on first reading, and we have begun our special and select. Councilman Lay spoke, and then Councilwoman Atkins acknowledged our technology issues. Are there any other members for special and select? Please remember to raise your hand and to keep your devices muted until you're prepared to speak. I acknowledge now Councilman Lay has his hand raised.
Mr. President, while we were trying to correct the technology, I had an opportunity to talk to Councilwoman Brown. For some reason, she was knocked off the air and cannot get back. She was knocked off somewhere around the time of the reading of the ordinances. So it appears she will not be able to come on, but we did discuss 2020-12. So
Okay.
those are my comments at this point.
Thank you, Councilman Lay. And just to confirm with our IT team, is Councilwoman Brown on or not on?
I am not on. Can you hear me?
Oh, you are on. We hear you now. Welcome, Councilwoman Brown.
I'm sorry.
And we're live on Facebook and TV and everywhere.
I
All right.
hear you, but I don't know if you can hear me.
Okay, I hear you.
Okay.
I hear you, Councilwoman. All right. Any other members for special and select? Councilman Lay raising his hand again. I think that was by accident. Any other members for special and select? All right. Seeing none, we will now move. I think Councilman Lay is recognized.
The clerk should acknowledge we have now 9 members present.
I don't think we have 9. We probably have 8.
8, I'm sorry, we now have
Okay. So Deputy Clerk Reynolds, did you get that?
Yes.
Okay, we acknowledge the additional presence of Councilwoman Brown. So we have 8 members present. All right. And just confirming, no one else for special and select. I know that we're raising our hands. All right, thank you all very much. At this time, we will move to council pending ordinances and resolutions on third and final reading. I'll remind you, my colleagues, that we did add CPO 2020-23, as well as CPO 2020-24 to our agenda. Now, typically we do the third and final first, and then we go to the second reading. But if we're adding these items, if we're suspending the rules to add these items to be voted on all 3 readings tonight, Attorney Williams, I want to make sure I do this appropriately. Should we wait, or should we do them now as part of third and final?
It would be appropriate to do them on third and final. There would first have to be a motion to suspend the rules to pass an awful reading.
Thank you, Attorney Williams. Is there a motion to suspend the rules to consider CPO 2020-23, as well as CPO 2020-24 to be considered tonight for third and final reading?
Mr. President.
Councilman Brewer is recognized.
You would do that once you come back before second reading. We would go ahead and suspend the rules at that time. We will move, at this time, we should be moving to third and final if there's nothing else on special select.
Okay. I got you. Thank you, Thank you, our parliamentarian and Councilman Brewer, for correcting us on that. So what we'll do is proceed with 2020-17 and go through all the others that are already on the agenda. And then when we get to second reading, we'll take up the motion to suspend on 2020-23 and 24. So we are looking at CPO 2020-12. So Madam Clerk, council pending ordinances and resolutions on third and final reading.
CPO 2020-12, an ordinance approving the reorganization and renaming of various executive departments of the City of Gary and amending salary and operating budgets in connection therewith. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilwoman Brown is recognized. Councilwoman Brown is recognized.
Mr. President,
Councilman Brewer is recognized.
just a point of order. For Councilwoman Brown, you have to make sure that you unmute your phone each time. I know she wasn't on the call when we discussed that, but they're muting us, and we have to unmute ourselves to talk.
Right. So Councilwoman Brown, make sure you unmute yourself so that you can respond to us. Otherwise, we won't hear you. Councilwoman Brown? Well, what I'm going to do in the interest of time is to, Madam Clerk, if we could move to CPO, I think these are all actually in the Finance Committee. What is that? So Councilwoman Caldwell is recognized for CPO 2020-12.
I'm sorry, I'm
Don't forget
recognized.
that.
What do you mean?
Well,
What you
can you
say?
hear me now?
Oh,
Oh,
Councilwoman Brown is recognized. Thank you.
I move the CPO 2020-12 be moved back to the Finance Committee.
Second.
Is there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded to move CPO 2020-12 back to the Finance Committee. Any questions or discussion? Is your hand raised, Councilman Weatherspoon?
No, it shouldn't
Any
be.
questions? Okay, it is, but that's okay. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon.
Please enter your access code followed by the pound or hash sign.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
To enable audio control, please enter your audio PIN followed by the pound or hash sign.
It's set.
If you do
Councilman
not
Councilman Weatherspoon.
pound or hash. Welcome to the webinar. You have entered as an attendee in listen-only mode.
Mr. President,
Yes, Councilman Brewer is recognized.
someone must have another device going on. We're having the same problem here, and the clerk is trying to get some answers.
Right, so make sure you can't use both your computer and your phone. You can only be on one device. I'm going to ask the clerk to restart the vote on CPO 2020-12. And just as a
Councilwoman
reminder,
Atkins.
this is, go ahead.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon, Councilman Weatherspoon.
Looks like he's not attentive, so he's on another device, is what I'm assuming, because the button of not attentive is showing up. So let's just continue the vote.
Councilman Williams, Councilman Williams,
Yes.
President Godwin.
Yes.
I'm gonna keep.
Try
President
Councilman Weatherspoon again.
Weatherspoon, Councilman Weatherspoon.
He's probably muted. Someone keeps muting us.
So you have to unmute yourself to speak. That's how we're avoiding the echo. So everyone is going to be muted, and in order to speak, you have to physically unmute yourself.
I believe
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Organizer just unmuted me, so he may have to do it for Councilman Witherspoon as well.
Let's manually unmute Councilman Weatherspoon, please. He's not on the call. Please proceed, Madam Clerk.
President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
I think the vote will be 7-0, the Attorney Williams, because only 7 people voted.
Oh, I'm sorry. The vote is 7-0.
Thank you. With a vote of 7-0, CPO 2020-12 is referred back to the Finance Committee.
CPO 2020-15, an ordinance authorizing the city to make temporary interfund loan to the Fire Pension Fund and Police Pension Fund, sponsored by Mayor Jerome A. Prince, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
Councilwoman Brown is recognized. Please unmute yourself, Councilwoman Brown.
I'm sorry, I move for passage of CPO 2020-15 on third and final reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
We'll now have our overview at this time, but I do want to acknowledge a potential procedural issue. The controller is no longer, okay. Arlene Colvin will do the overview. Please proceed. Okay. 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 Please proceed, Attorney Colvin. Is Attorney Colvin on the call? I don't think so. Excuse me? Okay, Attorney Colvin is also going to probably be doing the overview for CPO 2020-16. I'm thinking, so Councilman Brewer?
Yes, Mr. President, is there anyone else from the administration that's on that can do the overview so we can keep moving?
Let's see. Corporation Counsel McCain, I'll defer to you, or the mayor is also on, if either of you would like to do the overview, or what is your pleasure?
Mr. Chair, this is Trent McCain, Corporation Counsel. I'm checking to see if the Chief of Staff is on the call and having problems. I will defer to the mayor for his decision on whether or not we should present the overview at this time.
Thank you, Attorney McCain.
Hello?
Mayor Prince. Oh, I was great. All right. Attorney Colvin is with us to give the overview for CPO 2020-15. 15.
I'm sorry, I was on my call and it didn't work from the phone.
Okay, no problem. We're all being patient and flexible, so thank you.
Okay.
It's
CPO 2020-15 is an ordinance providing a interfund loan.
excuse me, Mr. President, point of order.
1 second, Councilman Brewer, I think is recognized.
Yes, Ms. Colvin, is there another device or anything that's up around you? We're getting a lot of feedback now since you're on.
Does this help?
Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Because I was on my phone at first.
Okay, thank you.
CPO 2020-15 is an ordinance providing an interfund loan from the general fund to the police and fire pensions. The total amount of the loan is $3 million, 1.5 million going to the fire pension, 1.5 million going to the police pension. I ask the council to approve this ordinance.
Thank you, Attorney Colvin. Questions or discussion from members of the council? I recognize Councilman Williams. I think that may be an error. I recognize Councilwoman Caldwell.
That's an error.
Okay, thank you. Any other members, questions for Attorney Colvin? Councilman Brewer is recognized.
Yes, Mr. President. I had asked inside the committee meeting about a TAW that was taken out. I did receive the information that a TAW was taken out in the end of December there, but I did not receive a cash flow, what we're looking for as far as cash flow inside the city of Gary.
Attorney Colvin is recognized.
Councilman Brewer, I sent a spreadsheet as well. You did not receive that?
I didn't receive the spreadsheet. I did
The
receive.
question that was asked of me at the finance committee meeting was, what were the cash balances of the funds at the end of 2019? And I provided a Excel spreadsheet to the finance committee.
No.
You
No, my question was, where were we at financially at that point in time inside of 2020? Because I wasn't sure.
in the pension fund, or I'm sorry,
No.
in the pension fund?
The general fund. That was the general fund.
Oh no, sir. I don't recall you asked me that question. I'm sorry.
No problem. But if I can
I can
receive
provide that information.
Okay, no problem. But I do understand about this needs to go back into those funds, and I am okay with that. But that was my question from the committee. So I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Councilman Brewer. Let's see here. No one else has their hand raised, so hoping that there's no other questions or discussion for Attorney Colvin. Assuming none.
Is it
roll
Councilman Godwin?
call.
Councilman Godwin?
Councilman Williams is recognized.
I'm not sure who the organizer is, but they are muting me throughout the entire meeting.
Yes,
I
you will
can't
always
even
be
unmute
muted.
myself.
You can
I
only
can't
speak
even
when you
unmute
unmute
myself.
yourself.
Yeah.
What you say?
I can't even unmute myself.
Okay, we hear you now.
Okay. I just wanted to let you know that, Councilman.
All right, thank you. Right, no other members for questions on CPO 2020-15. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Witherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
President Godwin.
Yes,
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 8-0, CPO 2020-15 passes and is so ordered.
CPO 2020-16, an ordinance amending the budget for Lake County Fetal Infant Mortality Review Grant, sponsored by Mayor Jerome A. Prince, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller Reese Radney, Northwest Healthy Start.
Councilwoman Brown is recognized. Councilwoman Brown is recognized. You'll have to unmute yourself. Councilwoman Caldwell is recognized.
Okay. I think I'm okay.
Oh, okay, Councilwoman Brown, you're here, you're with us. Thank you.
CPO 2020-16 on third and final reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
Yes. It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilwoman Caldwell. We'll now have our overview at this time.
CPO 2020-16 is an ordinance amending the budget for the Lake County Fetal Infant Mortality Review Grant. That organization has awarded dollars to the Northwest Indiana Health Cooperative in the amount of $36,777, excuse me. The grant will be used to analyze the circumstances, clinical and social factors surrounding infant deaths before the age of 1. And the grant will allow for the development of community solutions to prevent future infant deaths. The funds are going to be used for a part-time social worker to undertake this work. I'd like the council to please approve this ordinance.
Thank you, Attorney Colvin. Any questions or discussion for this ordinance? I'm giving extra time because I know people are using technology here and people might be fiddling with their devices.
Mr.
Seeing
President.
none, Councilman Brewer is recognized.
Yes, just a point of order for the public, and I don't think we gave an overview far as how we're using this technology and letting them know that during this time there is no public portion that can be, invited to this portion here, what we normally would go into. So I just want to put that out for the public information also too.
Thank you, Councilman Brewer. I briefly mentioned at the beginning that the public, I don't know if you may not have been on the call yet, but the public wouldn't be with us. That's all right. But it's good to remind us because we're on a new Facebook video now, so many people will not have heard that, so thank you. But we are in compliance with the open door law. The governor has modified it in order for us to make sure that our gatherings don't have more than 10 people. We want to be an example for the city. So as I said earlier, we are live on Channel 4. We're live on Facebook as well as radio, WLTH, and 88.7. And so we're doing our very best to make sure that you see what we do. And of course, there's no statutory obligation for members of the public to speak at our meetings, only for the meetings to be viewable. But in an effort to have good democratic engagement, this body has historically had public comment, but there will be no public comment tonight. Any other questions or discussion on CPO 2020-16?
My hand is raised, Mr.
Councilman Lay is recognized.
Yeah, we shouldn't interrupt at the beginning of a vote for a point of order. That is absolutely not the proper place to do this. In other words, the vote should continue. In other words, you had explained it at the outset. So we're well into the meeting now. So you should have votes. It could have been more a point of personal privilege, but we were not violating any rule at the time. One order, or rule being violated.
Thank you, Councilman Lay, for that parliamentary correction. I just wanted to respond to Councilman Brewer's concern. Because people are viewing this online, and will have missed the overview we gave at the beginning about the technology, but I certainly respect and appreciate your concerns around the continuity of flow in our vote following the overview on a matter. Seeing no other questions or discussion, Councilwoman Caldwell? Or is that an error? I think it's an error. Okay, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown, Councilwoman Brown,
Councilwoman Brown is no longer on the call, so please continue.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 7-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 7-0, CPO 2020-16 is passed and is so ordered.
Mr. President, that ends pending ordinances and resolutions on third and final.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Council pending ordinances and resolutions on second reading.
CPO 2020-17, an ordinance establishing a new fund and department budget for the Gary City Court Second Chance Enhancement Program, sponsored by Judge Deidre L. Monroe, Gary City Court.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Caldwell is recognized.
the Finance Committee, would like to, schedule a committee meeting for April the 14th at 5:30 and a public hearing April the,
21st.
yes, the 21st at 6 p.m. Oh, we would
And
like
just for
to,
clarification, it will be a webinar or it will be an online meeting. So,
okay, a
or
webinar.
teleconference.
Okay,
Thank you.
we're doing this on second reading.
Yes,
Okay.
it's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilwoman Atkins. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 7-0.
With a vote of 7-0, CPO 2020-17 passes on second reading with a online teleconference meeting to be held on April 14th at 5:30 p.m. and a public hearing on April 21st, 6 o'clock p.m. Also most likely via online or teleconference.
CPO 2020-18, an ordinance appropriating 2020 budgets for the operating expenses of grants, donations, special revenue funds for the city of Gary for the fiscal year beginning January the 1st, 2020, ending December 31st, 2020. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome A. Prince, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilwoman Caldwell is recognized.
Mr. President, was that 18? Okay, that's finance also. Okay,
Yes.
Finance Committee moves for passage of CPO 2020. You said 18? Can I
Yes,
do them
that's
all?
correct.
Okay,
You
let me do
actually
them
did.
all at one time.
Yep.
We move for passage on the second reading of CPO 2018, 2020-19, and 2020-23 with,
We're gonna hold up on 23 and 19. I think the issue is that they need to be read out. Attorney Williams is reminding me. So
Okay.
let's have the clerk to read out 19. Let's deal with 23 separately, but read out 19 as well, and then we'll do it collectively. Madam Clerk?
CPO 2020-19, an ordinance approving 2020 budgets for the operating expenses of grants, donations, special revenue funds for the City of Gary Commission for Women for fiscal year beginning April the 1st, 2020, ending September 30th, 2020. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome A. Prince, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilwoman Coswell is recognized.
Muted. Okay, we move, the Finance Committee moves for passage on second reading of CPO 2020-19. With,
And 18.
And 18, yes. With, committee meeting on April the 14th and then April you said 21st?
Yes.
Both on webinar.
It's been moved. Is there a second? The time of the meeting will be 5:30 p.m. for April 14th. Is that correct? And 6 o'clock p.m. for the public hearing.
Yes.
Thank you. It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second. Seconds.
It's been moved and seconded by council members Atkins and Lay. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell, Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Council, Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams, Councilman Williams,
Yes.
President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 7-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 7-0, both CPO 2020-18 and CPO 2020-19 are passed on second reading.
CPO 2020-21, an ordinance amending Chapter 10, Article 4, Section 10-111 regarding public restrooms in gasoline service stations, sponsored by Councilman Godwin, 1st District.
Mr. President,
Councilman Brewer is recognized.
I move for passage on second reading of CPO 2020-21, a planning committee meeting April the 14th at 5 p.m. and a public meeting, it would be a public hearing, but April the 21st at 6 p.m. webinar, for both of them.
Thank you, Councilman Brewer. It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilwoman Caldwell. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 7-0.
With a vote of 7-0, CPO 2020-21 passes on second reading with a committee meeting to be held via webinar, online teleconference at 6:00 p.m. on April 14th, 2020, and a public hearing to be held in the same manner as aforementioned on April 21st, 2020 at 6:00 p.m. We have, as I mentioned earlier, when we added these two items to the agenda, both CPO 2020-23 and CPO 2020-24 in the Finance and Planning Committees, respectively. At this time, there has been a request by the sponsors of those ordinances to suspend the rules to pass these on all three readings. So we're going to do these separately. Just as a procedural reminder, we simply need a simple majority of the council members to approve these measures to be considered on all three readings. And in order for them to pass on all three readings, there must be a unanimous vote of the members present. For that reason, because we've had some council members drop on and off via technology, I want to be especially sure that we know when we're talking about a unanimous vote of all those present, who's actually present. So what I'd like for the clerk to do before we consider these is to do another roll call just to ensure we know who's actually with us. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins.
Here.
Councilman Brewer.
Yes. Here.
Councilwoman Brown. Councilwoman Caldwell.
Here.
Councilman Lay.
Here.
Councilman Weatherspoon.
Here.
Councilman Williams.
Here.
President Godwin.
Present.
There are 7 present, 2 absent.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With 7 members present, we have a quorum to conduct the business of the Garrett Common Council. As it relates to CPO 2020-23, Councilwoman Caldwell is recognized, and basically there's a question: is there a motion to suspend the rules?
To read it.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules to pass this measure on all three readings? We'll have the clerk to first read it.
Yeah. CPO 2020-23, an ordinance amending ordinance 9299, 2020 salary ordinance, sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary.
Council will now have an overview by Attorney Colvin.
President, point of order.
Councilman Lay is recognized.
The manner in which you explained is in reverse, is incorrect. In order to pass on all three readings, you must have it unanimous. Then you need a supermajority to pass. You reverse the order of what you said. In other words, if there are 7 votes to pass on all three readings on this vote coming up, you must have 7. On the second one, you must have a supermajority, which would be 6.
Okay, so I basically stated what Attorney employees. Any other questions or discussion around the substance of this ordinance?
Mr. President,
Councilman Lay, is this a substantive or procedural question?
no, this is a substantive question. In other words, this
Okay.
will be deficient. You may run into a problem on the procedural point that I'm,
Okay.
First of all, this does not include the clerk, does not include the council, and it does not include the city judge. So why are we passing to pay only one part of the executive branch, and we're not paying our own councilman staff, we're not paying the clerk staff, and we're not paying the judge's staff? I think it's premature to do this when we're going to have all these other departments or branches of government not being paid. I'm absolutely believe that everyone should be paid. I don't have a question about that. But I think we do them all at once, not piecemeal.
So I'll let Attorney Pohl respond, but I believe, and please correct me, that that the employers you're talking about would not be negatively affected by having to work from home. But I think this may more closely relate to those who have to be physically present in order to do their jobs. That is to say, the job can't be done unless one is physically present. But Attorney Pohl, please correct me if I'm wrong and respond to Councilman Lay's concerns.
Absolutely. What this ordinance pertains to is in a situation where somebody is either showing up for work or they're working from home, they're being paid accordingly. And that would be in compliance with all, fair wage laws and anything like that. If you're doing the work, you're going to get paid. This pertains only to those individuals that if you are staying at home and you are not working, not performing a function for the city. As to Attorney Lay's position on this or his issue with this, it was my understanding that this would apply to all city employees, and it does not differ. He's correct. It doesn't necessarily parcel out or specifically name the clerk's office employees or the council employees, but I was under the impression that because it was applicable to all employees paid by the city, that's how this would apply. But I mean, I'll leave it at that. If there's any other discussion that needs to be had on that, or if this needs to be amended, we would obviously take that under consideration as well.
Councilman Lay is recognized.
Okay. Read paragraph D and E. In other words, to me, it's quite clear that the judge, nor the clerk, nor the council is making a decision. In paragraph D, at the very end, it says the mayor or her designee. The mayor is making a determination here solely. Again, I agree with the payment. I just, if we're going to do it, we should do it for the entire city of Gary. If the State Board of Accounts is asking for it, they have got to be asking for the entire city. They can't be asking for just simply the executive branch and not the legislative branch and other elected officials. So I do not believe this ordinance covers that. Now, you may believe that. That's why it may be important to determine what, and I couldn't find it when I was looking it up because I wanted to listen, what the procedural question is. I think that's going to become very important. See?
So what I will say is that when I look at section 1 of this ordinance, it says that the salary schedule, quote, that the salary schedules which are attached hereto and made a part hereof, which is marked for purposes of identification as salary schedules for the city of Gary, calendar year 2020, are approved by the Common Council of the city of Gary. So I suppose, to Councilman Lay's point, is that the particular ordinance that is being amended does not cover the judge and the clerk's office. And I would assume that those salary schedules would be attached to this particular amendment of this ordinance. Is that correct, Attorney Pohl?
it covers everything that was in the original ordinance, the original salary ordinance, which is the 9299. So this is applicable to only those, to all of those those salaries that were part of that schedule.
And do you anticipate? Go ahead.
What I would mention as well is what this is essentially referring to throughout the rest of it is obviously the mayor has the authority to declare an emergency, and when that happens, in a situation where there's an emergency, all city facilities are shut down. All of these employees, the clerk's office, the council, that all is affected. So when those individuals are being sent home, and I'm nearly positive that all those salaries are part of that ordinance. I guess I would have to go back and double check, but I'm fairly certain that they are.
Let me ask you this, 2 questions. One, I just want to confirm that the decision we make tonight, does it affect, I believe there's a pay period Friday, is that correct, of this week?
I believe it's next Friday. The next Friday is the actual, when the checks would be cut, that would cover the last 2 weeks prior.
Okay. Well, I would like, and I guess my second question is there an issue in terms of the type of employees in the clerk's office and in the judges, under the judge, that would need a similar amendment to the ordinance to include them? Do we expect there to be workers who also have are in the same situation?
I don't know if I'm following the question.
So what I'm saying is that I think Councilman Lay is saying that we don't want to do this piecemeal. That is to say, if the judge and the clerk's respective offices were not originally covered under ordinance 9299, which is what we're amending, then we would likewise need to do a similar amendment for the particular ordinance under which those salaries fall. But if in fact those salaries are under 9299, then we would not need to do that. This measure itself, by amendment, would include everybody that Councilman Lay is concerned about.
Yes. To answer the question, yes. If they weren't covered under that ordinance, then understandably so, yes, they would need to, in order to comply with the SBA. I don't have it in front of me, unfortunately, right now, but I've always been under the impression that 9299 covered all the employees, all salaries that were covered under, or that are paid out by the city of Gary.
So what I would say is that we don't have another council meeting until the 21st, which is after the next pay period. As much as possible, I certainly want to make sure we follow the correct State Board of Accounts protocol in terms of how we pay people. Now, Attorney Williams whispered in my ear that we could ratify this at our next meeting. That is to say that the department has the authority, I presume, to do this, and that we could ratify what they had done. I just think that's always a little risky, because what if we don't ratify it? And we have made the payment, should there be a council member who disagrees. On the other hand, I'm very sensitive to the fact that we're in a global pandemic, and I would hate for a procedural matter to stop folks from getting paid. And if we need to add others later, I have no problem doing that. And I would hope that other council members wouldn't have a problem doing that. But these are very extraordinary times. But I certainly respect the question. It seems like there is a lack of clarity around whether folks are covered under 9299. It looks like Chief of Staff Colvin, did you raise your hand?
I did.
Okay.
The clerk and the council, the clerk, the council, and the judge's salaries are in the entire salary budget.
Thank you. I think that clarifies the issue. Councilman Lay is recognized.
Okay, take a look at Indiana 30 code, Indiana 36-4-6-13. Indiana code 36-4-6-13. it will indicate to you the supermajority of the 2/3 after a unanimous consent.
Attorney Williams is recognized.
Yes. What Attorney Leah is referencing is actually in 36-3-4-12, subsection A, and it does read, for the benefit of those who don't have it before you, a 2/3 vote of all the elected members after a unanimous consent of the members present to consider an ordinance is required to pass an ordinance of legislative body on the same day or at the same meeting in which it is introduced. So, in fact, Attorney Lay is correct procedurally. The first vote, however, is the vote that I referenced that requires a unanimous vote to consider it on all three. And following that vote, it would require a 2/3 vote to pass.
Great.
Thank you, Attorney Williams, and thank you, Councilman Lay. So, Councilman Lay is recognized.
Still unready. In other words, they're now saying the mayor is going to make a decision whether the clerk employee is going to be paid, whether the council's employees are going to be paid, and whether the judge's employees are going to be paid. That means they've shifted the authority from the council to the mayor.
That might be me.
Okay. So is there an amendment proposed to, because I don't want to leave here tonight without taking up this measure. I think the issue is far too sensitive for us not to fix it. Again, these are very extraordinary times. Is there an amendment you would propose to this ordinance that would satisfy your very reasonable concerns about the power of this body in relationship to the power of the executive as it relates to the payment of salaries?
Yes, let me just look. Can I have a moment, please?
Yes, absolutely. So while you're looking at that, are there any other questions or discussion from members of the council? Is Vanessa, her hand is up, that must be her.
Okay, I believe if we amended or paragraph D and E at a minimum by including the employees of the court, let me see, where we're talking about, it says city officials, the employees of the court, and in fact that I would assume we would have to authorize the judge and also the clerk to make the decision whether to pay the employees that are off. They would be responsible to make sure they're not violating this ordinance. I could go
and the council president, as it relates to the council employees.
That's fine. That's fine. Any way you can insert something into D and E would satisfy me. And I go back to what, then of course, if we have to amend, I believe Attorney Williams suggested it, we could do it at another meeting. We'll go ahead and pay everyone. And then the state board of accounts must see this as an emergency also, even though it's a fairly incomplete ordinance. Let's just insert them in. Yes.
Okay, so so basically what we're saying is that the city judge in section D, the city judge, the city clerk, and the council president would have the authority over their respective departments to determine who would be paid under this emergency stay-at-home pay ordinance. Is that correct?
Yes, I will agree to that. I will agree to that.
Thank you. Clerk Reynolds, do you understand the amendments that are being proposed for CPO 2020-23?
Could you restate the amendment, please?
The amendment is as follows. CPO 2020-23, Section 2, Paragraph D is amended to include that the respective, I think actually it should be paragraph G, because it says during an emergency, the mayor in his or her sole discretion may pay full or partial salary. So I believe it's paragraph G of section 2 would be amended to state that the mayor, as well as the city judge, city clerk, and council president shall have control over their respective departments to pay full or partial salary, et cetera, as the ordinance, the amendment to the ordinance already reads.
You would also
Is
have
that
to,
clear?
have to do that with F also, wouldn't you? Look at F.
No, what one, yes, I believe so. The other option is to basically state that wherever mayor appears, the respective dark department heads, that is the city clerk, city judge, and council president, shall also have the same power. Perhaps that could be added as subparagraph or paragraph J, or everywhere. We could add to the document that wherever mayor is in the document, the respective department head, city clerk, city judge, council president shall have the same authority.
I agree.
Thank you. So there's a motion to amend CPO 2020-23 as aforementioned. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded by Councilwoman Atkins. Any question or discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Brewer is recognized.
I heard you use the word, where may, you used the word shall. Are you requesting that shall be replaced may? I heard you reference that earlier.
So sure, just to be clear, we know there's a distinction between may and shall, but wherever there is mayor, the respective city clerk, respective department head, that is city clerk, city judge, and council president shall have the same responsibility. If I said may, I apologize.
No,
the
may.
Movement, are you still
may
okay with
that? Yes.
Absolutely. The movement is, I believe, okay with that, Councilman Lay?
Yes, what you just said.
All right, and thank you. And Councilwoman Atkins, are you still seconding?
Yes.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
2/3.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon, Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams, Councilman Williams, Councilman Williams,
Please continue, Madam Clerk.
President Godwin.
Yes.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, this is Trent McCain, Corporation Counsel.
Attorney McCain,
Mr. Pohl and I have had our hands up, and I'm sure you
I'm sorry.
just may have missed it. We didn't want to interrupt the vote of the council. We wanted to point out that the verbiage should not be department heads, but rather the branches of government, legislative, executive, judicial, and the fourth would be the clerk. Because
Okay.
department heads themselves cannot make that,
More broad.
that particular decision.
Mr.
Absolutely.
President,
Yeah, Councilman Lay is recognized.
There's only two, city government is statutorily, there are only two legislative. I was supposed to say the office of the clerk, the president of the council, wherever you find the name.
Okay, so
Local government, it's statute to the executive. We create city court, so it's only two things. Legislative and the executive branch.
So let's restate the motion that wherever, quote, mayor, unquote, is in CPO 2020-23, the city clerk, the city judge, and the council president shall have the same authority.
Agreed.
Thank you. Councilman Lay has moved. Is there a second?
Second.
No
Councilwoman
objection from
Atkins
the
has seconded.
administration.
Wait, excuse me? Okay, thank you. Any questions or discussion? Roll call, Madam Clerk. Who's?
This is Attorney Paul. I was just going to point out the only section that may not be applicable to interchange mayor with the others would be in the very beginning of section 2 when we're talking about the declared emergency portion of it. I didn't to go and strike out everywhere mayor and everybody because the mayor declared emergency.
So that, I think you're saying the first line of section 2?
That's correct.
I believe it says executive, it does not say the word mayor. But I do see where you say, as part of such declaration, the mayor may provide that employees directed to refrain from coming to work receive pay. So I think because it says executive, that shouldn't be a problem with the motion.
That's correct. I just wanted to make sure everybody's on the same with that.
Absolutely. Any other questions or Attorney McCain? I see a hand up.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'll take it down.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Councilman Lay? Okay. Okay, thank you. All right, at this time, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yeah.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams, Councilman Williams, Councilman Williams, President Godwin.
Yes.
The vote is 6-0.
With a vote of 6-0, CPO 2020-23 is amended as aforementioned in the motion. At this time, I want to remind council persons that to Councilman Lay's point and to Attorney Williams' clarification, in order to suspend the rules to consider this measure on all three readings, unanimous vote of members present is required in order to pass this measure. Issues. IT department. All right, can you hear me now? Okay. Okay. So, IT department, are you all with us? So there's a delay. I just want to make sure that everybody's hearing what I'm saying. I know those present are hearing me earlier than those on the line, and I'm getting a slow network connection notice on the computer here. So I'm going to turn off the webcam. I think that will improve the, okay, is it better now? Okay. So, again, I was just reminding everybody that in order to consider this measure on all three readings, we have to have a unanimous vote of the members present. And in order to pass the measure on all three readings, we have to have 2/3 majority of the members present to vote in the affirmative. Because we have had several council members due to technology issues drop on and off, I want to make sure we get this absolutely right. And so if we're going to vote to approve this amended ordinance, I want the Madam Clerk to call the roll.
Councilwoman Atkins.
Here.
Councilman Moore.
Here.
Councilwoman Brown.
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
Councilman Lay. Councilman Lay.
Listen, President. Councilman
Councilman Weatherspoon.
Present.
Councilman Williams. Councilman Williams.
Councilman Williams, you're unmuted.
Councilman Williams.
Please proceed.
President Godwin.
Present.
Mr. President, there are 7 present.
So there are 7 members present, which is a quorum to conduct the business of the Gary Common Council. Now, here's what I want to make sure, and please correct me, Attorney Williams, or anyone else if I'm wrong. Only those members who have just acknowledged that they are present should be voting on this matter, since a unanimous vote of the members present is required in order to add this on third and final. So at this point, is there a motion to add CPO 2020-23 as amended to be considered on third and final on all 3 readings?
So moved. Attorney Lay.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded by council members Atkins, Brewer, and Caldwell. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, roll call again of the 7 members who were most previously acknowledged present.
Councilwoman Atkins.
Yes.
Councilman Brewer.
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown.
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
Councilman Lay.
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon.
Yes.
And President Godwin.
Yes. Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 7-0.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 7-0, there is unanimous vote of the council to consider on all 3 readings CPO 2020-23 as amended. This time, we'll need to actually vote to approve CPO 2020-23 as amended. Is there a motion to approve CPO 2020-23 as amended?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Been moved by Councilman Brewer. Is there a second?
Second.
Been seconded by Councilwoman Caldwell. Any questions or discussion? We're going to check and make sure. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins.
Yes.
Councilman Brewer.
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown.
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
Lay. Councilman Lay.
Yes.
Councilman Spoon.
Yes.
And President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 7-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 7-0, CPO 2020-23 as amended passes on all three readings and is so ordered.
CPO.
We also have, I'm sorry, continue, I'm sorry.
CPO 2020-24, an ordinance approving the grant of a use variance to a parcel zoned as residential. Petitioner is Jerry Lockhart, 3044 West Ridge Road, Gary, Indiana.
Mr. President,
Thank you. Councilman Brewer is recognized.
I move for passage on, I ask to suspend the rules and move for passage for all three readings.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Again, we have to have a unanimous vote of the members present. So, Madam Clerk, please only call the names of those who were most previously acknowledged present.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
President.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 7-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 7-0, CPO 2020-24 is added to the agenda to be considered on all three readings. At this time, we will have our overview, which I believe Attorney Poe is providing. We can't hear you too clearly.
Okay, I'm sorry. This ordinance is being presented as a grant, or as a request for the granting of a use variance to Jerry Lockhart at 3044 West Ridge Road to establish a car lot. That lot is currently zoned as B3. Mr. Lockhart appeared before the BZA, the Board of Zoning Appeals, on January 16th, 2020. And at that meeting, the BZA made all five findings of facts that are required by the code section 36-4-918.4. At this time now, we are asking that the council approve the favorable recommendation of the variance to allow that parcel to be used as a used car lot. That's it.
Thank you. Any questions or discussions among council members? Whose district is this property in?
That's the question.
This is 3044 West Ridge Road.
3044
West Ridge Road. I believe it's the 5th district.
I believe so.
And I wanted to make sure you had, I know we're obviously not going through our typical procedures. We did want to, we know this has been an extraordinary time, and because we haven't met, this gentleman's ability to move forward has been curtailed. But I certainly wanted to give you the opportunity to express any questions or concerns that you may have.
So I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, that looks like that's at the corner of Ridge Road and maybe Chase Street. It used to be an old pizza place or something, because I just punched it up. So, I don't know, you talking about a car lot? How many cars? You know, it's hard when I don't have paperwork in front of me and I haven't done the research on it. And when did he come to the council with this, or to the building, or who, zoning?
Yes, this is for the BZA on January 16th, 2020. Mr. Lockhart had provided the BZA with an overview of this lot. I believe at the time he said that there would be roughly he could fit 20 vehicles on the lot. In fact, Mr. Lockhart had contacted the council today and found out that there was going to be this meeting. He had stated that if there were any questions, he would be able to answer them. I could read him on the phone, see if he'll call into the council's number at the 1513 number as well. If it's, I leave that up.
I don't think that's gonna work.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking at the lot right now, and my biggest concern is I have the same problem going on right now at the corner of Ridge Road and Burr. Those people came to us and said only so many cars, and I've sent code enforcement down there a couple of times because it's vehicles on top of each other just piled up. Maybe 100 cars on this small lot that looks like about the same size as this. So BZ said that they approved this, huh? And I'm not getting a good view right now because, like I said, I'm just looking at what I'm looking at now on my telephone, so.
Were letters sent to the nearby residents or other property owners?
There was, yes, there were all the proper notice that was required by state law did go out, all within the 400-foot radius of the location.
Were there any objections?
I do not believe there were any responses or objections. Hold on 1 second. I'll double check that real quick, but I'm almost certain that there were not. I will.
Mr. President,
Councilman Brewer is recognized.
let me just say in the past history, what we have done, we have put conditions. No one has been back before the city council of any violations, or I don't think any council member has requested for any of the petitioners to come back before us with any violation, but we have put those conditions in place to revisit a business within a year if we saw that there was a problem, where we can reconsider those variants that we passed. But I know, as far as I've been on the council, I haven't seen us revisit any of them. Now, there probably are several that we probably should call back, but we haven't done it since I've been on the council.
That's a very good point, and perhaps, this is something we might even make it in 3 months or 6 months. It could be conditionally approved today, but in a 3 or 6 month period, be revisited. Yeah. How does that sound to you, especially the chair of the committee, Councilman Brewer, but also the district council person, Councilwoman Caldwell?
You said 6 months. 6 months sounds good.
Okay. Attorney Pohl, how do you feel about that?
That would be fine. That would be okay. I will say that going back and reviewing, there was one remonstration. It was a common remonstration, which was essentially the concerned citizen stating that there's enough car lots in the city.
Gotcha.
There was a remonstration.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion?
Mr. President?
Councilman Brewer?
I would just add that we would put in a petition 6 months to a year. So just in case the petitioner does not get up and going, I know I've seen a lot of times these car lots come in, a lot of times they're trying to open up around tax season. If we do a year, that will put us way ahead of tax season for next year too. So we can definitely see how this business operates outside of the 6 months also too.
Okay, I always say so when we say within a year, that means at any point next week, right? We could revisit it. Absolutely. Is that that's essentially okay. So that makes sense to me. Do you want to make a motion to amend CPO 2020-24 to insert that provision of a conditional approval reviewable within 12 months of passage?
Yes. So I'll make a
Is
motion
there,
to amend, as outlined as the president just have, detailed to us, to amend 2020-24.
Second.
is there, it's been moved and properly seconded by Councilwoman Caldwell. Any questions or discussions? Councilwoman Atkins is recognized. Oh, Councilwoman Atkins is recognized. She needs to be able to speak.
So I just want, Mr. Chair, some clarification. So if we do instate the motion to do a review within 6 to 12 months, can you explain how that works and whose responsibility it will be to bring it to the table for review?
Again, I stand corrected if wrong, but my understanding would be that any council person could bring it to the body, and specifically to the Planning and Development Committee, I think would be the appropriate place to start to reconsider this approval. Attorney Williams, any other council members have a different perspective on that, or the Corporation Council? Attorney Williams is recognized. Attorney Williams?
Yes. As Councilman Brewer spelled out earlier, and you just recently, that would be the proper procedure. Any council member could bring it to the floor of the body or the request of the appropriate chair, and only then will it be reviewed. It won't automatically come back. It would only come back upon the request of a councilman.
Thank you, Attorney Williams. That's satisfied. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, is that, looks like somebody was about to start. Seeing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes?
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Godwin. I'm sorry, President Godwin.
Yes. Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 7-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 7-0, CPO 2020-24 is amended as motioned.
Councilman Godwin.
At this point, we would need to add it. We passed unanimously, so at this point, we need a 2/3 vote to pass the amended version of CPO 2020-24. Is there a motion to pass 2020-24 as amended?
Make a motion for passage for 2020-24.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilwoman Atkins. Any question or discussion?
Mr. President, I'm sorry, there
Councilman
was
Brewer is recognized.
there was one thing that I didn't note here on the back here, and this is like Attorney Lay watching everything. Where it says right here,
Councilman Brewer?
where it talks about the approved signature in the bottom. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, Councilman Brewer?
So where the approved signature is at the bottom, it's always continuous, where it says the mayor. Here it just have Jerome Prince, City of Gary, Indiana. I just want to make sure that we're doing everything like we always do and nothing is switching up.
So what I will say is that on the previous motion to implement a 12-month reviewable conditional approval, the matter is also amended to insert the word mayor between the comma after Prince and the word city in the signature block of the said ordinance. So you're moving the aforementioned, Councilman Brewer?
Yes.
And is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilwoman Atkins to make the aforementioned amendments to the ordinance. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, roll call, Madam Clerk. This one we're voting on the amendment. Just to be clear, we've changed the amendment. We're voting on the amendment.
Councilman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay.
Yeah.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
President Godwin.
Yes.
The vote is 7-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 7-0, CPO 2020-24 is amended as most previously motioned. At this point, we need
Councilman
to, this
Okay,
is.
I'm just now being unmuted. Is it possible I can just?
Councilman Williams.
Is it possible I can just
Councilman
be
Williams, that you can be what?
left unmuted? I'm just now
So
getting
IT
unmuted.
Okay,
Feel like you're-
Councilman Williams has been muted and unable to unmute himself. So IT department is going to take that. Excuse me? He said to talk to make sure you're able to be heard.
I'm sorry?
Councilman Williams, did we hear him? We hear you. Thank you, point well taken. Sorry for the technological problem. So now we need to have a 2/3 majority to pass this measure as amended. Is there a motion to pass CPO 2020-24 as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Councilwoman Atkins and seconded by Councilman Brewer. Any question or discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Lay is recognized.
we first do the unanimous vote. We've never done that. Of the member, we must now have a unanimous vote.
Deputy Clerk, can you clarify? I thought we already did the unanimous vote to add it to the agenda for third and final, but if I'm wrong, I certainly stand corrected.
You amended it. Therefore,
No, we initially added it to the agenda for third and final reading. I just want to make sure we did that. Deputy Clerk Reynolds?
Yes. There
So
was
did
a
we continue?
on all three readings.
So there was a unanimous vote to pass, to consider CPO 2020-24 on all three readings.
Yes.
Okay, and then we then just most previously voted to amend CPO 24, and I believe that was unanimous as well. Not that it had to be, but that was unanimous.
Yes.
Any further questions, Councilman Lay?
no, that's a technical problem. Go ahead.
Okay. All right, so let's proceed with the vote for passing CPO 2020-24 as amended on all three readings. It's been motioned already by Councilwoman Atkins, seconded by Councilman Brewer. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 8-0, CPO 2020-24 as amended passes unanimously and is so ordered.
Mr. President, ends pending ordinance and resolutions on second reading.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Now we've reached the point where we will have the mayor's report. Is Mayor Prince on the line, or is Attorney Colvin providing the update?
I don't have a
Attorney
report.
Colvin,
Mr. Chair.
what'd you say? Oh,
Mr.
okay,
Chair.
Mayor Prince is recognized. Yes,
Sure,
sir.
My apologies, Mr. Chair. I was actually finishing up a call with the governor relative to COVID-19, but thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. And
Thank
thanks
you.
to the members of the Common Council that are present also, as well as any residents that may be viewing us through any of the multiple mediums that we've been able to establish over the last few months. I especially want to commend the IT team as well as this council for having the wherewithal to facilitate a meeting so quickly, especially during these uncertain times. Thank you all. And on behalf of all the citizens, I want to say thank you as well. As you all are all aware that as an administration, we try to provide daily updates for everyone with general information relative to COVID, as well as measures that we're taking as a city to help stop the spread and to provide the necessary resources in order to address it. In addition, we continue to urge people to practice social distancing. I think everyone is aware now that all the scientists and the data and evidence suggest that it's the proper and appropriate thing to do. But here locally, we've had individuals to review our data, and the suggestions is that we certainly, if not the second, we're really close to being the second epicenter here in Indiana in terms of cases reported relative to testing. As you all know, or may not know, perhaps I should say it like that, that testing has been an issue in Northwest Indiana for quite some time here. In fact, I recall the first mention of the coronavirus at a public meeting at the very first meeting, I believe it was in March. And at that time, Dr. Walker was ordered to, or directed rather, to communicate with the state health department as well as the CDC and all of our healthcare providers, in addition to the federally qualified healthcare providers in addition to that. The point that I make, Mr. Chair and members of the council, is because of that speedy recognition that at the very minimum, we had a responsibility to be able to share information with the public, that today we feel that although things continue to escalate in terms of the community, we feel that we are prepared to continue to address it, all the way to the point that there's been a little bit of pre-planning, or at least anticipation of there being a lack of medical facilities in order to treat the COVID and regular medical cases. And to that end, along with the Army Corps of Engineers, State of Indiana, the Governor's Office, as well as the National Guard, we're looking at the possibility of establishing 2 more facilities here. Lastly, on the COVID virus, Dr. Walker continues to establish, or try to establish, or look for resources to establish a drive-up testing site here in the city. And that would be for regular people. But let me be clear that any testing site that exists now, or that may exist within the immediate future, will only be for persons who have received a doctor's order to go get tested. But I'll keep you, as well as the citizens, continually updated on the developments there as we continue to move through this. But I certainly want to thank everyone for their efforts in encouraging our constituents to practice responsible social distancing, and thank you all for trying to remain safe. As a reminder, City Hall will remain closed for the next at least 2 weeks per the governor's executive order. While that's going on, there will be personnel present in the building, and the building will and can be open for personnel who need to ingress or egress. I want to mention the census. As you all know, April 1st was Census Day. And the point is that if ever there was an opportune time to compel folks to do it, it would be now. For one, we certainly have more time than we've typically had within the last year on our hands. But secondly, I think this COVID situation that we deal with certainly provides the opportunity for us to make a correlation between the count and the amount of funds that we receive, whether it be through federal resources or grants, or specifically make the case that any COVID-related items that we incur now, certainly, hopefully in the event, will be able to be recuperated. But the point is that there are a lot of folks who are less fortunate than others and who find themselves out of employment and lacking resources. And a correct and accurate count in this census data will certainly help to ensure that additional resources are available to help our constituents. Lastly, Mr. Chair, and I really appreciate your patience here, I'd like to discuss an action that the Finance Committee initiated and that this body confirmed this evening. And that was to send, I believe it's CPO 2012 back to committee. Today is my 98th day in office. And in some regards, Mr. Chair, this body is actually impeding this administration's ability to fully function several ways. One of the first ways would be that essentially you are mandating who, or at least attempting to mandate who this administration employs. I believe that, and I'm certain that this is absolutely a function of this body, at least the rationale for one of the persons who we've discussed, and that being the Director of Communications. The rationale that I have heard up to this point certainly doesn't rise to the level of being substantial enough to keep this administration from employing this gentleman under contract and being able to deliver the message that we work so hard to make sure is clear and accurate and consistent, not only for our constituents, but certainly for this body as well. Secondly, by doing so, we're effectively denying a prescribed compensation for an employee who, in my opinion, has stepped up to the plate to fill multiple responsibilities. This body, or at least a number of them, having passed the last budget, understand the shortages and the deficiencies that exist. And in a situation where we have a person who has willingly stepped to the plate and is performing that job on a daily basis very effectively, and in essence allowing us to realize some enhancements in service and certainly keeping up to speed, I believe that gentleman needs to be compensated as the ordinance prescribes. Lastly, everything that I've said relative to this ultimately results in this administration being stymied to implement the desired progress, not only for the administration, but certainly for the residents of the city of Gary. And I would certainly hope that this council would revisit its decision relative to the employees that the administration have advanced to you, and that we could all collectively get together and continue to work on this COVID situation, as well as all the myriad of other issues that we have in the city. Thank you so patiently listening, Mr. Chair, members of the body, and I'll stand by.
Mr. President. Mr. President.
President Godwin.
Mr. President.
Clay, there seems to be a delay on my screen at this time. I don't know if anyone else can hear me.
I can hear you. I can hear Councilman Lay, and President Godwin looks like he's in a freeze.
Yeah, same here.
Let's just give it a few minutes and see if we can get them to come in.
You know, we have a rainstorm outside as well, so I don't know if that has something to do with it.
For sure, they got a lot to do with it. It's coming down on my.
You guys say it's raining. It's not raining. It's barely raining over here.
Yeah, I'm on the west side. It's really coming down.
Yeah, it's storming. I got lightning.
Really? I'm on the far west side. I don't see much.
Wow.
Can you hear me now?
You ain't gonna be able to hear.
I hear you, but you still froze.
Okay, but you can hear me. That's all that matters. Okay, okay. I'm not. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
We're live on Facebook.
You're going in and out.
Okay. Okay, I'm not worried about you seeing me. Can everyone, which we know is it?
You're breaking up, sir. I have no audio.
Tremendous challenge. I'm assuming everyone can still hear.
President Godwin, can you start over because you're going in and out real bad.
Okay, am I back?
Yes. Well, you was.
So there is a delay.
There's no audio.
Same here.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
You start talking, then you go out. So let's see how far you go.
Okay, you hear me now, though. You hear me now. Okay, I'm going to try to. Okay, I'm going to try to. Okay, you hear now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. What I was saying is that I wanted to thank both the mayor and the health commissioner and his entire team for doing a great job in terms of the COVID-19 response. I know that it is a tremendous challenge for the city. I did have some questions, and I wanted to respond to the mayor's concern he raised about the notion of the council impeding government. And I want to be clear that, as I have indicated to the mayor. Okay, sorry about that. What else that indicated to the mayor with 99% agree with 99%, 95% of the realignment that's been proposed. My concern, and I think other council members' concern, that was expressed during the finance committee meeting,
Mr. Chair, you're breaking up real bad, and right now we have no audio of you at all.
My screen is frozen.
Mine is also.
No audio either.
Councilwoman Atkins, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. Are you still in the chamber? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, you hear me now? Yes.
We-
Okay. I don't know where I stopped. Of the,
You're going back out again.
okay, I think there's a delay basically.
No.
So I'm just going to can everyone hear now?
Yeah, you'll start and then you'll start breaking up real bad and just go out.
I think there is a delay of some kind.
Okay.
So what I'll do is just continue, and I'm sorry for the delay that is happening. But in any event, I agree, and I think the vast majority of the council members, just simply from what I've heard in public meetings, I have no problem with the vast majority of the realignment proposal. And I haven't heard anybody really question any aspect of it but one part. And of course, in government, we see that even on the national level, every branch wants everything, right? Everyone wants the way, but government just wants to, and are multifold.